Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hope this video finds you in good health. Today we will start the most important and fundamental topic to your journey of green belt. It's defining the problem. Let's understand what it takes to define a problem. There are few components like project charter, SIPOC, process mapping, deploying the Kano model, plotting the CDQ, and capturing the voice. We'll understand one by one what each of these actually mean while defining the problem. So the first one we need to understand is the element of project charter. Yeah, it looks a little spooky and there are doors to it because you actually have to cross through these doors and then understand what these individual things mean. So let's start with the business case. Now, before we get into the business case, we need to understand what is a project charter. A project charter is a document, it's a record which helps you to get a formal approval that you're doing this project and there is somebody sponsoring this project. End of the day, somebody has to pay the bill. So if somebody is asking you what you're doing, why you're spending so much time on this project, you can remove the project charter and tell them, this man or woman has sponsored the project. These are the reasons why you're doing the project and these are the profits that you're going to get from doing this project. Now, why will anybody be interested in letting you do a project? The simple answer is because it is helpful for the business. And when something is helpful for the business, it needs to be written down in a format of a case. Hence, it is called the business case. What are the elements of a business case? It needs to explain the high-level brief of what this project is actually planning to achieve. What is it important? Why is it important? To whom it is important? What will happen if you don't do it? And what is the impact if you close the project? How many dollars or how much revenue or how much cost is going to go up or down? That all is mentioned in your business case. Second, how are you going to achieve all this? Obviously by solving a problem. But is that written as a problem? No, it's a problem statement. And a problem statement has to be smart. It should explain the specific, measurable, achievable, real-time and time-bound elements of your problem. You should also gather data and go ahead and calculate what exactly is the problem. When was this problem evident? And what is the impact? All these together construct your problem statement. If you have a business case, if you have a problem statement, then there has to be also a goal. What is the current situation? What is the change you try to bring in? By how much percentage are you going to change that metric? All this is explained in your goal statement. But to do this, you need a plan. And this plan is broken down in 5 phases. Define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. But what's more important is, if these 5 phases are called milestones, then how many days are you actually planning to take to cover these milestones? If you're a fresher, you need to get the experience from a black belt. If you already have done some projects, then you will have a rough idea. But do speak to your sponsor and champion to understand roughly how much time will it take, because the help they need and the help you provide using the analysis will definitely conjunct together to understand how many days it takes. For you to do the calculation will be easy. But are people going to give data on time? Would there be escalations? All this has to be kept in mind. Remember, just a tip for you, the milestones deviate from the plan because of the culture of the organization, not you. So, keep in mind the culture when you're planning the timelines. Scope. What is the scope? Scope in simplicity would be the boundaries. What departments are to be involved and what departments are to be excluded. What is the boundary of this project? What it should touch, what it should not touch has to be explained. 𝘊𝗍. What is the most critical component to the quality? The success of any project comes from 4 vital points. What is the customer communication? What is he trying to tell you? What is the market trying to tell you? How is the delivery going around the product? And after all, the final thing, how the product is by itself. So if you keep all these 4 points in mind, you can easily get a 𝘊𝗍. Don't worry right now. Definition is important. Very soon, maybe in 10-15 minutes, you will easily understand how to define a 𝘊𝗍 tree. So stay tuned. Team, the most important part of the project. You alone cannot drive anything. You can just lead them. You can just tell them. But they are the people who are interested in driving your project. They see a win-win situation. So select your team carefully. It's very important that people are from different departments who have direct or indirect relation with your project. A sponsor and a champion should be definitely communicated when you finalize a team because they can give you good tips. Now, the stakeholders. Who are these stakeholders and what are their roles when you define a project charter? Before we go ahead, remember, every stakeholder has his own definition of what success looks like. So you need to ensure that you handle them with careful hands. Don't hurt their ego, don't ruffle up feathers, or don't rub any shoulders. Be very calm, be very quiet. They're going to put a lot of pressure because they want results, but you need to understand how to tackle them. Remember, in a project, 80% of the time is psychology, 20% of the time is skill. So, manage them with the mind, not with the data. So, who's a sponsor? A person who's financing your project. Yes, the man who's financing the project is the sponsor. For example, you see an ad on a Facebook, it always says sponsored. If you're trying to go to US or any other country, they are asking who's the sponsor. So sponsor is the person who is financing your project. Means if anything goes right, wrong, you need to purchase anything. Sponsor is the guy who's going to give you the money. So he's the topmost guy in the hierarchy to help you with the project. Now remember, why is he giving you the money? Because it is mostly in his large interest that he wants this project to be done, but he cannot alone do it. That's why he becomes the sponsor of the project and you become the lead of the project. Champion, very important man or a woman. In the Six Sigma project, a champion will lead the project from front. He will help you with initiating the project, getting your meeting arranged. Also, the most important part that he will play is he will remove all the roadblocks for you. So if you get stuck somewhere, like somebody's not coming to the meeting, not giving you data, he's the man to go and tell him, listen, this man is not supportive. And champion knows what to do. Black belt. Yes, the guy with big specs looking always into the data. No, just kidding. Not necessary that he's going to have specs. But this character, which I like over here, has black specs. So black belt is a guy who has a good experience in driving projects around 7 to 10 years. and that's why he becomes the coach for a green belt, also seeks and gives advice to the sponsor and to the champion. He will go ahead, meet the business team, explain them why it is important for them to contribute and help you get your project sail smoothly. Very, very important man. Finally, you, the lion in this project. Yes, you need to have a heart of lion. You need to face things the way they come, because there's a lot of people asking results. So you need to conduct meeting, gather the data, share analysis, go ahead and double check if what you think is going right, help them implement the solution. So there's a lot of work you'll be doing, and that's why you will be leading the team in completing this project. So you are also a stakeholder. One most important input to a project is also to know what customers really want. So in a project charter, we normally discuss the internal stakeholders, but at times you can also get the external stakeholders. Now, these external stakeholders can be suppliers, can be anybody who is outside the organization, like a government body. So, anybody and everybody who is not working inside the organization is an external stakeholder and also becomes an external customer for you. So, one should know how to get their inputs also if it's very critical for your project. Now, it's a global problem to understand what your customers really want, but if you use some methodologies, then you can resolve this. Now, there are these expensive research organizations who actually use these tools and they try to understand what the customer needs. Now, when I say customers, remember, it's external and internal. So if you understand these tools, which these research organizations use very successfully, it can really help you drive your project in the right essence. So what are these critical factors that will help you? What are these important tools that you need to learn to capture the voice of your customer? Now, these tools are three. The most important ones are listening to the voice of your customer, business, and employee together. If you keep having records of all three people, the customer, business, and employee, then you can easily understand where the problems are. Second, you need to understand the Kano model. Third, you need to plot the CTQ tree. Should they be done in this order? Not required, but if you do it in this order, it will really help you. Okay? So let's understand the first point, and that is the voice. Now, whose voice are we actually interested? So there are three voices that we're actually interested in capturing. The first one is of your customer, the one on your left, who's angry, red color. The one on your right, I think it's my right, yes. The employees are on my right. And so it's your left, sorry. And also the business. So capturing voice from these three people is important. Now let's understand what are these three components. The first one is VOC, the second one is VOE, and the third one is VOB. Now, three voices that you need to capture, and these three voices are very critical. So we're going to understand them step by step. VOC is the customer feedback. Now remember, customers are always treated like diamonds, but then after they do the purchase, they don't feel the same. So it's very important that you keep these customers happy, because without customer, there's no business to be in our business. Customers give this feedback in person or on complaints or in social media. We need to capture this. So if you have a call center, take proper data from them. If you have a team that can go on social media and capture all this, very, very important. When you have captured all the feedback, then you can always go ahead and work on it. Else, this feedback on social media will never go unpunished. So you don't want that. So always capture it and work on it. Now, most of the time we try to use a lot of technology in solving customer problem, but the truth is you can just pick up a phone and talk to your customers. Listening is the best way for a customer to remove his anger. He just wants somebody to understand that you understand him. So it's like putting yourself in their customer shoes. When you put yourself in customer shoes and you show that empathy and sympathy, that's when they do not behave irate. So listening is a very important skill. Now, remember, you should always resolve locally but replicate globally. If you find some good solution to your customers, share it with everybody, with every center. Why? Because you never know. Human behavior is same across the world. So, somebody else would be having these problems. You can resolve it. Let's go to the next point. Voice of employee. Employees always have first-hand experience in managing customers. So if you're sitting in your boardrooms and thinking what the customer is going through, that's not the right way. Go and call your employees. They will tell you the right information. They always have some ideas by which they want to resolve these issues. So capture those ideas, give them those rewards through the recognition program, and they will keep giving you the challenges and the ideas by which you can resolve the issue. Third category, voice of business. Now, business always wants to increase revenue. That's always their focus. So, they will always have feedback to improve the systems and the time it takes to complete a transaction. So, always remember, business mostly will come with time issues, nothing else. So, just focus on improving the time it takes to do anything, and they will be very happy. Now, remember, to achieve their target with accuracy and precision, they will always ask you to improve the system. So remember, they are not just interested in doing something with very less time, but they also want the same thing to be done with very high accuracy and precision. The next voice that you need to listen is the Kano model. Now, we have understood 3 voices. Now we're going to understand the second tool called Kano model. Now, Kano tries to explain you how a satisfied customer turns into a dissatisfied customer. Okay, so this is very important. Look at this arrow. Yes, what does it tell you? I'm going to be on mute for maybe 30 seconds for you to digest this diagram. Yes, so did you understand? I'm sure some of you would also have doubts in understanding this. So it's very simple to understand this. Now let's say you have a customer team or a customer satisfying team who is very good in helping your customers always be delighted. Means you're performing high and your customers are satisfied. That means you are here. Okay? But if you are not performing and your customers are not satisfied, you are here. Okay? And this is the place you don't want to be. This also is not a good place to be in. And even this is not a good place to be in. This is the only place you should be in. Why? Because here is where the customer gets delighted and satisfied. Now, what is Kano trying to tell you in this diagram is that a customer normally does not directly get delighted. He first gets satisfied. That's why you see the satisfied word written. And when you push it far more better in your service, the arrow starts shifting and it becomes delight. So we need this. We don't want somebody to just be satisfied. So I'll give you an example. Some years ago, if you had visited a restaurant, you would find tissue papers as a delighter. But today, if you visit the same restaurant, tissue papers are necessity. They are satisfiers. Now, if you don't have a tissue paper in a restaurant, then the same delighted customer becomes unsatisfied all of a sudden, because he believes you're not doing something which is basic. But 10 years ago, that was a delighter. So everything that you do to make your customers happy originally delight them, but then it only satisfies them. And if you don't pay attention to it, then it dissatisfies them. So that's how it works. That's what Kano's model is trying to explain you. So you need to understand that the project that you're doing is why. Is it a new need, something that never existed before? Or is it a need which was earlier in a delighter mode and now it is in a dissatisfier mode? So that's what you need to understand. So, few more examples of delighters. A restaurant offering free parking on site. That's a delighter. Free parking, wow. A car with a 5-year warranty instead of 1 year. Yes, we want to buy that. An airline that doubles our miles. Wow, you can get an extra ticket very soon. Satisfiers. The tastier food, the more satisfied the customer. So, taste only satisfies, does not delight. The more economical, the more satisfaction of a car, the customer is satisfied because it's economical. Comfort. Customer is only satisfied. The more comfort is satisfied. Yeah, I'm happy. I was satisfied. But does that delight? No. See, delighters are the cherry on the cake, not the cake. So it's the little things that will delight the customer, not those big things, right? So remember, delighter is the cherry on the cake and not the cake. That's the easy way to understand the difference between delighter and satisfier. So now let's go to the next point. CDQ tree. Let's understand what importance would a CDQ tree have. See, customers have requirements which we call needs. Okay? Companies call them wants. Internal quality team will call them as CTQ with few measurements. Okay? So together, if I have to sum it up, it would be critical to quality. So what we are trying to achieve over here is, let's take this example. A tea that has to be served to a customer at a certain temperature, for the customer it is called hot. But an internal quality team would know the exact temperature at which you are serving. So that would be the CTQ for the chef. Got it? So let's take an example of soda cola. Yeah, it's not Coca-Cola, it's soda cola. It's a new organization, just 𝘃𝗏, right? Now, if I have to go ahead and say that they were doing a project to increase their revenue, then this is how their CTQ tree would look like. So, what does the customer need? A cool drink. But what drives the customer to buy this particular brand? That's why the word driver is written. What are those unique qualities that will drive this customer to buy this product? So what are those things that he's looking for? So he says, which is in the second column called CTQ. So he says, it should be cold. It should taste like cola. It should be around 50 or less than for the cost. And I should be able to hold and drive. Now, this is a very, very peculiar customer requirement, and it's easy to understand that these people are on the highway. They want to drive, and also drink soda cola. So we need to understand what are the measurement scales. We need to monitor them. So the first one is with Celsius. And what is the target? 22 Celsius. Second one is you're going to have a taste maker. That's the measurement for cola. And what is the target? The mix will have 80% cola and 20% sugar. The third measurement is in rupees. And the cost ranges between 20 and 50. The third one is milliliters. Right? Now what measurement is milliliter? It's the capacity, that we need to have in the can. Remember, he said he needs to hold this and drive. So you cannot give him a can which is 1 kg. You need to give him a can which he can easily hold in his hand without feeling the pressure of. Okay? So that is how you would design a CTQ tree. Now you need to practice this, and if you accomplish this, you can send me a snapshot of this. Try to make this on your own for a donut company. The problem that you can think of is that the sales are down and you need to do a project in improving the sales. Okay, so you're increasing the revenue of a particular product called donut. Now, this is one example that I'm solving for you, where pizzeria is very famous for Italian pizzas, and now some change management has happened. Some leaderships have changed, and because of the change, the sales have gone down. So imagine you being called as a consultant who's a green belt, and now they want to find out the CTQ by which they can improve their sale. So you're going to pilot this, test, transition, and then scale it. So if this was a tasty pizza, then what would the CTQ be like? They would be around the topping, the crust, the cheese, right? The ingredients like salt and pepper. And the last part, which normally people don't pay attention, is the ketchup. Remember, when you're eating a pizza, ketchup can play a very big role for some people. And at what temperature is it served after baking? These are very important CTQs, okay? Imagine you go to a good pizza house and everything is awesome, but the food was not served in time. What happens to that pizza? Try eating a pizza after an hour. Some people don't like it. They like it hot. So, when you go to a pizza house, the very reason that you want to eat is a fresh pizza. You don't want to eat a pizza which is a little cold. They will not like it. So that's a very important CTQ about a pizza. The temperature at which it is served. Right? So in that way, try practicing this. Try to find the CTQ for selling bread. And then if you champion it, try to find the CTQ for selling cakes. Trust me, you do all these exercises, especially in the retail sector. So I gave you donut, I gave you bread, and this third one is cake. You practice these three, you will master the CTQ game. And your project will just go flat success. You will easily achieve. People who do not understand CTQ, who do not capture CTQ, trust me, are not able to close their project in the right way. They might do it in the shortest time, but then after some time they realize that the project is not really sustaining. So remember, the last phase of your project is control. And if the project doesn't sustain, 99 out of 100, it is because you didn't capture the right CTQ. Okay? Now, so you know that you have a project charter, you have a stakeholder, and you also know how to plot CTQ. You've captured the voice, you've done the Kano model. Now you want to see the process. How is it actually done? So for that, we need a high level, a very high level. Like imagine you are in clouds and you're watching the city. So you need a very high level process view. And that high level process view is called 𝗙POC. Okay? So let's try to make a 𝗙POC for an admission process in a hospital. What would you do? You fill the form, get diagnosed, get operated, show improvement, get discharged. These are 5 major points. But what if you want to understand the milestones by which these 5 major points were done? It's very important for you to understand that, right? So, 𝗙POC full form is supplier, input, process, output and customer. So what we're trying to do is, we're trying to fill data from your left to right. So it is called 𝗙POC. The reverse way is called 𝗀𝗶𝗱𝗏, where you fill the data from right to left. That is customer, output, process, input and supplier. So there are 2 ways by which you can fill a 𝗙POC. Let's fill a 𝗙POC and understand how it is actually done. So you first go ahead and write the main steps, then define the process. And for the process that you've defined, you will first define the input and output. Once the input is defined, then you will define the supplier of this input. Once the output is defined, you will explain who's the customer of this output. So let me recap it for you. When you make a 𝗙POC, you first write the main steps in your process. So here it is about COVID. You have a checkup done and there are steps for that. Now for all these steps, what were the input and who were the supplier? So that's one part. And then what is the output of this process and who's the customer for this output? That's the second part. So if you go to see, 𝗙POC is actually in 3 parts. The first part is supplier input, second is process, and third is output and customer. But you start with the middle one, that is process. Then you go for input supplier, and then you go for output customer. If you have any doubts, feel free to contact me and we can take this forward. It's an easy one, try making it. What is the second way to go ahead and understand your process? It's a simple flowchart. Now this flowchart is very simple. It's about going to the bank and depositing a check. But there are some ifs, then, yes and no's. How do you capture these minute details of yes and no? That's where a simple flowchart is required. I have made one more for you. You can also design it in this way. It's about just ordering food. So, what are the major instructions of making a flowchart is you start with the word start and then you define the first activity and the second activity. When you come to an activity where there is a decision to be made, okay, then you draw something which is there in the blue color and it will have 2 strings to it, which is yes and no. So again, yes will have an activity and no will have an activity. And to these yes and no's, the whole flowchart has to be connected. So try making one and share it with me. I'll let you know how it is done, whether it is right or wrong. So that is the end of our define phase. What did we study? We understood the project charter, the voice of customer, voice of business, voice of employee. Then we understood the Kano, understanding the process from a high level 𝗙POC, CTQ and flowchart. Now, all these things are good. You understand them, you work on them. But remember, if a charter is not signed, do not move to the measure phase. You need to only move to the measure phase only and only if the project charter is duly signed by your sponsor, by your champion. Else, they can come back saying we never approved the project. So remember this is very important. If you have any doubts, feel free to connect to me and I'll solve them. The templates for making Kano model, capturing the voice, project charter, 𝗙POC, CTQ are all available after this video. There's a link Click on that and you'll get all the formats. My request to you is, please practice. Imagine a problem, practice it. Put a charter around it and send it to me. I can let you know whether it's right or wrong. Okay? Thank you. Have a lovely day. Wish you all the best. Thank you.